Minister of Finance, what are the consequences of unsustainable increases in public spending that led to budget deficits getting out of control?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, countries which allow their deficits to get out of control can end up in considerable difficulty. For instance, I've seen reports overnight that Britain is being forced to make the largest cuts to public spending since World War II. In a 5-year austerity plan that could cost nearly 500,000 jobs. Mr Speaker, the governments who let deficits get out of control find themselves in a position where they have to make drastic decisions rather than considered decisions.
Peseta Lotu-Iiga.
Supplementary to the Honourable Minister, how is the world economy performing this year?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker...
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I think sometimes, members have a vague crack at hitting ministerial responsibility in supplementary questions. I don't think that one did.
Order. I am... Pardon me. No, I am on my feet and I'm dealing with a point of order, or trying to deal with a point of order. Look, the honourable member makes a perfectly valid point that the minister has no responsibility for the world economy. However, I took the question to be asking the minister's opinion, and of course ministers' opinions can be sought on a range of matters. So I've interpreted the question on that basis, and on that basis I've allowed it. But I fully accept the point being made by the member.
Speaker.
The Honourable David
Mr Speaker, I'd ask you to respectfully reconsider your ruling. It was only a day or two ago that the Minister was taking credit for achieving lower inflation, which of course was a direct result of the crisis in the world economy.
Order.
And so
Order. Order. The member will resume his seat, and the member will remember that one rule I'm insisting on absolutely: when I get to my feet, members will resume their seat. Now, I think that point of order was definitely not a point of order, unlike his colleagues that I think had some merit. And I'd ask the Minister to answer the question insofar as it seeks an opinion. The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the world economy is certainly not performing well enough that governments can afford to relax fiscal constraint. For instance, Mr Speaker, looking back, in Britain, where they are making drastic cuts, public sector expenditure jumped by 40% over 5 years up to 2010. By way of comparison, in New Zealand, over a similar period, government spending jumped by 50%. That is, spending in New Zealand, public spending in New Zealand was growing faster than in the UK, and that's why it's vital that the government sticks to its policy of fiscal constraint and cleaning up the damage done to our public services by the previous Labour government.
Peseta Lotu-Iiga.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker. What feedback did he receive on New Zealand's economic performance?
Yesterday's.
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, among the feedback that I received was approval for New Zealand's fiscal constraint, because international credit agencies, for instance, understand that if we allowed our government expenditure to continue at the rate that it increased under the previous Labour government, we would end up in a position where we'd have to make cuts as drastic as those that are in the UK. This government has got hold of public finances, and if we manage well, we'll be able to avoid drastic cuts such as those being made in the UK.
The Honourable David Cunliffe. Order. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Supplementary to the Minister, Mr Speaker. What are the consequences for the budget deficit of a deteriorating recovery, described by Reserve Bank Governor Alan Bollard yesterday as fragile rather than the Prime Minister's aggressive? And if he knew that the deficit was growing, why did he continue with upper income tax cuts that he knew New Zealand could not afford?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, a couple of points there. As the member knows, the tax package was broadly fiscally neutral, and that is that income tax cuts were paid for by increases in GST and property tax and increased taxes on foreign owners of New Zealand assets. So the member's assertion is simply wrong.
Question number 4, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Supplementary,
I beg your pardon, supplementary question
thank
3,
you, Mr.
the Honourable
Speaker.
David Cunliffe.
Can the Minister confirm that the previous Labour-led government cut net debt to zero and at the same time halved gross debt and pre-funded New Zealand's superannuation, leaving New Zealand, to quote him, in a reasonable position in dealing with the uncertainty of our economic outlook?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, as I said in answer to an earlier question, New Zealand government's debt levels by September 2008 were at relatively low levels, and that has meant the government is in a better position to deal with the recession. That simply underlines the need for very careful management to stop our debt rising beyond control and getting public spending under control. If New Zealand followed the policies Labour is currently advocating, then we would end up with very high levels of debt, reckless public spending, more unemployment and a weak economy.
Question number 4, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Finance.